All right, I think we're going to get ready to get started. I know we're getting more people in here. You know, you newcomers coming in, be sure to get yourself a little something to eat. We also have Mrs. Horse Chief to the right of me. She's a world champion Indian taco maker. So I think she won it how many times? 7 times champion. So you guys go over there and give her some business. We also have Angie Echohawk to the left of me. She's selling different items over there. And we got Jackie Jackson over there in the corner. She's got a lot of good t-shirts and items over there for sale. She even has some tank tops that are new on her list. So anyway, guys, make yourself at home. We're getting ready to get started. If you have a story, feel free to come up and let me know. And you're welcome to tell your story. But right now, we're going to go to the Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation crew. They're here in full effect. You got Russell Sun Eagle. You have Yehola Tiger. And me, Chris Hill. We're here to kind of MC this event and tell a few things. But a few of the rules, if you do come up and tell a story, let's remember this is a family event. So let's keep our stories, you know, somewhat clean in here. So anyway, I just wanted to say that much. And again, I know it's warm in here, and I know hopefully they got someone coming and fixing this AC. So anyway, hopefully we'll get a good word here in a little bit that they got the AC on, and we're getting ready to get started. You know, this event, you know, again, I said earlier, you know, Timber Sampson White, you know, she had it on her heart to do something for the youth and the community, to bring the youth and the elders together, you know, to show that, you know, there's positive activities out here, you know, that you can do without getting in trouble. You know, and she wanted to do something traditional, something that was on her heart. You know, and this is one of the most traditional things that you can do is storytelling. You know, many tribes, they have different stories and things like that. But, you know, I know as individuals, we all tell stories at night, at home, at dinner, sometimes at breakfast. You know, or they're traveling down the road. They'll tell stories. So, you know, Native Americans, they're known for their stories. You know, again, so tonight we're going to share, you know, just a few stories like that. And tonight, I'm going to ask Mr. Yehola Tiger to kick us off with a keen story that he's got.
How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody good? It's a little hot in here. My name is Yehola Tiger. I'm Muskogee Creek, Cherokee, Kiowa, and Cheyenne Arapaho. My tribal towns, if you follow Canadian. I'm originally from Tahlequah, so I got some stories. I guess anybody been to Tahlequah? You guys ever been to Merle Home Park? Merle Home Park over here. There's a lot of legends that go around about that park. You know, I grew up there. It's kind of in Park Hill, about a mile from the Heritage Center over there. But you know, growing up, my grandpa lived over there, and we was always going down to the park. And this story takes place years ago, and there's this little boy. He just wasn't acting right. He's always sneaking out all the time, and you know, parents couldn't get a hold of him. And you know, one night he'd always go down to this park, Merle Home Park, and he'd go out there, and it'd be pitch black out there. He wouldn't see nothing. He'd, you know, eventually make his way home before the sun comes up. And one night he goes down there and he sees a fire down there. He goes, "What's that fire doing over there?" As any kid that, you know, you're curious, you want to see what's going on down there. And he makes his way down there, and there's a guy sitting down there, and he's got a fire going, and he's just out there hanging out, and he's like, kind of notices, looks back, and the kid's like, hey, what's going on? And the guy's like, oh, come on down here, we'll tell you some stories, and, we'll hang out. So they get to talking. This is, time goes on and on and on, and the fire starts getting real low. And the guy goes, hey, let me go ahead and put some more wood back on that fire. Let's hang out some more. He puts more. He goes to reach for the wood, and he stands up, and boy knows, wow, that's a real tall guy, probably 8 foot tall. He goes, what's that? And he's checking the guy out. He looks down. He's got hooves for feet. Boy, he took off so fast, he got out of there. I would too. But he got out of there, and according to how it goes, he never acted up again. But we know that's sometimes not the case. But those stories are passed down, and you hear those things. The different legends and creatures that bump the night. And this story, I'll tell one more, and I'll pass it on. Russell, if you got a story, I know you got a few of them. Chris has got a ton of them, but this story it's back in Tahlequah. I'm living in a trailer park. Hispanics, we got non-natives, we got natives. We're all living together, and we used to have this one Hispanic boy who just he would sneak out of his parents' house. His parents really didn't care, and he'd be messing around. And one night he said what he used to do is he basically used to kind of creep on us, me and my brother. And he'd look in our windows and be messing with us. And he goes, one night, so he told us the next day, but he goes, yeah, last night some guy beat me to messing with y'all. And I'm sitting there, and I'm probably 8 years old. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no, there's a guy on your roof with no face. Stand on top of your roof. He beat me to y'all. Growing up, there's, you hear stories, similar to that. And, I said, I could tell stories for days up here. I know some of you guys have some stories. I know I refer to them as LP. I know some of y'all got some LP stories out there. Anybody got any Bigfoot stories out there? Anybody? Any takers? I know a few of y'all got some out there. But this is one thing too about events like this that mean a lot to me. Growing up in Eufaula, Canadian tribal town, and going to those events. First time I ever told a story in front of a crowd similar to this, I was 8 years old. And I told a story that, it maybe didn't sound good or didn't make any sense, but, that's one thing that was, taught to me growing up is you gotta tell your story. So if you got one, come on up, okay?
All right, Russell Sun Eagle.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Russell Sun Eagle here. I don't know if anybody's checked out our podcast. It's Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation. It's myself, Chris, Yehola, and Tyler. Tyler couldn't be here. He had some stuff going on. But we were driving on the way here, and we're just swapping stories and talking about the night and starting this podcast. I've come to remember some stories about when I was younger. It's kind of hard to remember back then, but anybody from Pawnee? Has anybody been to Pawnee? Are you guys familiar with Yellow Horse Drive? And then housing, I guess. So that's where I used to live. And I was telling Yehola this one time, I must have been 9, 8 maybe, but we were all playing outside on the street, and it was getting dark. And so everybody was still playing outside, and I had to go in because, my mom was like, when the lights come on, come inside. So it seemed like everybody else didn't have that same rule, so I went inside and I begged my mom. I was like, please, can I please just play outside for maybe 30 more minutes or something? begged her and begged her. You know how it is when you're a kid. Finally, they say, "Yeah, go ahead, get out of here." So we went out. I went outside, and nobody was outside, but I heard kids behind the house we were playing at, and so I just heard these kids playing and laughing, having a good time. So I thought it was my friends, but I started walking over there, and I got to the house. I got to the corner, and right when I turned the corner, everything stopped. Like, it was dead silence. Like, the wind stopped blowing. The kids I heard just stopped playing. And it was just an eerie, like, silence. Like, the crickets stopped, all the summer bugs stopped. And so I thought kids were playing around with me. I thought they were hiding from me, but anyways, I kept saying, hello, you know, is anybody out here? I'm just a kid, I don't know, like, these paranormal stuff, but so I'm walking towards this old junk car that's behind their house, because I think everybody's behind that car for some reason. But I get these, like, kind of spidey sense of, like, it's like a weird, eerie feeling. And so something tells me not to do it. And so, I don't know, it just seemed like as a little kid, I could just, like, feel like I was there right now. But I ended up not going to that car, and I just, like, ran back to my house. And I didn't tell nobody, like my mom or anything, about what happened, because she would have been right. Don't play outside. Don't play outside when you're, you know, come in when the lights are on. So, but that was just, I remember that story from work when I was younger, so I told Yehola that. I want to share that with y'all, but thanks for coming out, everybody. This is a good turnout. I'm happy we get to put on this event for everybody. And I guess I'll hand it over to Chris.
Well, I sure appreciate these guys coming out, you know, and telling their stories. You know, again, they do a good job. You know, I like about Russell Sun Eagle and his crew. You know, they're all hard workers. You know, they're real go-getters out there. And that's what you want from our youth. You know, he does a good job. You know, he gives voices to people that don't never really get a chance to talk. That's our Indian folks. So if you guys get a chance, you know, check out his podcast. I mean, he's all over Facebook, Instagram, what's that, TikTok? Is that what that's called? And some other stuff that I can't even pronounce. So anyway, you guys check him out, you know, because he's got leaders around Indian country, youngsters that are trying to make a name for themselves, that are struggling out there. He gives them voices that no one else would. And so, you know, I'm real honored to know him. I've known him for a long time. And, you know, even when he was a young man, he was outstanding. You know, I know he always talks bad about himself, but, you know, he was always friendly. He always had good things to say, always welcomed me. He was a very respectful young man when he was little. And now he's even more respectable as a man. The things that he does, things that he carries. Now, I can't say that about Yehola. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, you know, Mr. Tiger over here, you know, he's a good guy too. You know, he works in the toughest field. You know, he works in health. He works at a community, what is that, like a rec center. You know, he does stuff for the youth. Not just Indian youth, but all youth. And he shows them all love. And that's a good thing. You know, we need more youngsters, young men out there being role models to our young natives out there, doing these good and positive things. You know, with that being said, you know, the next individual that I'm getting ready to call up, I kind of talked about him a little bit earlier. You know, sometimes, you know, we don't always respect our elders like we should. You know, that's fading away in Indian country. You know, this elder that I'm getting ready to call, you know, amongst the Wajajis, he's done a lot of things for the Osage people. You know, he's worked in this language department for many years. He's been director several times. You know, he's done a lot of good things. And he always carries himself very well. You know, when I was a young man, I met him. And, you know, he never showed me any negativity. He showed me nothing but kindness and good words. He would encourage me and give me good direction. And at this time, I would like for you guys to give a round of applause for Mowgli Lookout.
I know it's kind of hot in here, but it would be a lot nicer if it was cooler in there. Hear some of these stories. I just kind of wondering what Chris got me into here. I told he asked me if I had anything that I could offer. I said, yeah, I got one thing. That's about it. Anyway, I told him, I said, I could say it in about 2 seconds, what I've experienced. Well, he said, what? You need to elaborate a little bit, make it a little bit longer. I could talk about things, they're not going to scare you. They're not going to scare me, even at the time. I was just something that I saw. And I never told anybody about it because I didn't want to be incredible, you know, something that would scare anybody. And I told him, I said, well, what I have to offer isn't anything. I can say it in about 5 seconds. So nobody, but he said, well, we want to hear it. Told him, I said, well, I never told anybody because I didn't want to lose any credibility because nobody's going to believe me. It's not about Bigfoot. It's not about scary kids on this cemetery up here or deer woman or anything like that. So I don't have anything like that. So, you know, I listened to my elders back in the day when I was young, baby. And I was around a lot of them. They all talked about it, and they talked about different things. The hairy man in Alaska Reservation, the things there, I've heard them, and they talked about them like they really experienced that. And one time I was listening to them, and they really get where they will scare you. And I remember being scared just hearing them, and it's always at night they tell you them things, and I'd listen to them, and then one time my dad looked at me and he said, do you believe that? I said, yeah, I do believe it, because it scared me. He said, well, you won't see it. You'll never see anything like that. He told me that, and I never did. I never have experienced anything like that. So, but anyway, I moved here in 1971, here in Hominy. And along about around 72, 73, somewhere in there, this guy come by and he rented my land, and he was asking me, I was out there digging up my land. I live out here west of Hominy, and I was making a garden. He said, you're doing it the old time way. He said, let me do that. Let me bring the tractors over here, and he said, I'll cut you out about an acre or so. He said, you're doing it the poor man's way. I said, okay. So we did. He come out and plowed the yard up. I'm telling you this to make it longer. Anyway, he plowed it up, and then I was out there and I was working. It's about oh, maybe, it was in the summertime, so I guess about 7 o'clock in the evening. I'm plowing it up, and then I took a rest, because it's a lot, an acre's a lot of land break up with a hole. And I looked up in the sky, that's where it gets crazy. I see a red light looking at me. And then it sat there for about maybe 5 seconds, and then it just took off, and it just had a slope to it. Disappeared off in there so quick, and it disappeared. That's all I seen until my last year of being head committeeman. We just built that new arbor, that one we have now. And I was walking into that arbor one day, and the first time we had to dance in there. And there was this gentleman, and he leaned up against one of them benches. And I said hi to him, turned around, looked at me, I knew him. And he said, "Boy, this is great, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, it's really keen." I said, he said, "Well, I like this." Man, had his hat pulled up over his head. And I was head committeeman then, I got to the speaker stand and picked up the mic, and Judy come up and talked to me, and I got to thinking, that was Raymond Wamigo. He had passed away before that. And I said, "I just saw Raymond." And he talked to me. And he was commenting on the building. He was sitting there like he always did with his hat pulled back. I don't know whether anybody believes that or not, but it was true. I was trying to think who that could be. I couldn't think of anything else, but it was Raymond. And he was in the barn there. I looked over there and he's gone. But other than that, I don't have anything. I heard a lot of things. Seen. That's the only thing I've ever seen. I always look for Bigfoot. People say, I listen to people say he don't exist. But there's so many people that have saw him. And I say, well, they're looking at it wrong. They're trying to find evidence of him. But what they ought to do is just look and say, he really exists, and why aren't we seeing any evidence? And then that'd be a better way to look at it, rather than trying to find evidence that he's here. Why don't you just accept the fact that he is here, and why aren't we seeing him? Just a thought. Anyway, that's all I have. Sorry. Just give a round of applause. Oh, that's good job. Good job.
Let's give him another round of applause. That's one of the most respected Osage elder around here. You know, again, I can't say enough good words about him. You know, with that being said, you know, again, I know you guys are here to hear some stories. Today I'm going to tell you a story about when I was a young man. I worked for IHS. They sent me to a place called Dulce, New Mexico. And I know some of you guys have traveled down there and kind of know the area. You know, and one thing I was always told that, you know, all these tribes, they have different ways, different customs, and also different beings that they believe in. You know, and one of the tribes that were down there, of course, you know, there's several different tribes that live around there. You got a group of Apaches, you got Pueblos, you got Zunis, you got Dene people. And all these guys, they're well known for their traditions, their languages, their customs, and the things that they believe in. You know, they believe that these are real things. And I do too, you know, because we're all Indian folks. We all have those beliefs. Well, anyway, you know, I was down there doing surveys for the health department down there, IHS. You know, and my job was to go to different Indian communities to find out, do a survey, what they needed for health services, stuff like that. My boss, I think she was Apache, one of those Apaches down there. I can't say the name of their tribe, but I just know they were Apache. But anyway, I didn't want to mess up their name, so I'll just say Apache. Anyway, I had this little kind of like a hut. And if you've ever been to that Dulce, New Mexico, it's a small area. Not a lot of housing. It was a very small community where I was staying. And I didn't have any neighbors. This was kind of like a little house type thing. I would go out and visit these different tribes. And sometimes I would stop and, of course, look around, because I was new to the area. I'd walk around, look around. About the third week, I was there. I got home one evening, and the sun was setting kind of like this. And in this house, or this kind of like efficiency apartment that I was staying in, it had 3 windows. And I could have swore I saw a man walk by that first window. And the second window, he was kind of bending over. And that third window, he turned into a coyote. And of course, I'm Muskogee Creek. We've got different stories of different shapeshifters. So when I seen that, of course, I knew something was up. I kind of got startled. But then again, I thought, well, maybe my mind's playing tricks on me. Because I always like asking about ghost stories and stuff. So I'm always, when I visit, I ask these different tribes about the things that they believe in. And so I thought, well, maybe my mind's just playing tricks on me. So the next couple of nights go by, I start hearing things moving around in my little place. And things would be moved. And I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought, well, again, I'm tired, I had a long day, walking around. Anyway, as time goes by, I start hearing things talk. And I start seeing shadows on my walls. They would go from one wall to the other. Sometimes they would go like that. Sometimes they would go up and onto the ceiling. And, sometimes I thought, well, maybe there's a reflection that's causing these shadows to do those kind of things. But, I just, chopped it up as my imagination. A couple of weeks go by, of course, I was visiting those pueblos and a couple other different tribes down there. And like I said, weeks keep going by, and it started to act up even more. Then this one evening, I heard something underneath my bed. Now, in this room, it was kind of like an army cot. I don't know if any of you guys know what that army cot is, but I know Eugene back there probably knows what that army cot looks like. It's just a little cot on a little post. And you can see underneath that bed, you can know if something's under there. And I heard something underneath that bed, kind of like it was moving around underneath that bed, because I could feel it bump me. And of course I looked, there was nothing there. And I thought, I don't know about that. I said, it might be my imagination, but I don't know. So I jumped up, turned the light on. The rest of the night I slept with that light on. And then next couple of weeks go by. I start seeing that shadow more and more. Not only inside my home, but outside my windows. And I swore, I kept hearing it say, come outside. Come outside. It was inviting me, almost saying that. Again, that really worried me. It really mess with me. So, I started talking to my boss, because I know she was a native from that area. And I told her the kind of the things that were going on in my home or in the place that I was staying. And I also told her that this thing that I saw, he kind of looked like a little short man, but he was painted with stripes all up and down his body. And the freakiest thing that I thought about this individual was that his mouth was on top of his head. And every time I would see him, he would smile at me. And so I told her that. And she said, you need to go visit my grandpa. So she took me to go see her grandpa. And what he told me was, this old man, he didn't speak a lick of English. He was just fluent in his language, so his daughter had to interpret for me. So we went back and forth. I told him what I saw. She interpreted for him. And he told her something. And she had a difficult time explaining what this being was. But the basic thing that she told me was it was a spirit. And these tribes in that area, they put spirits into dolls. They put spirits into different things. And she said, you might consider this kind of like somewhat of a clown. But, it's a trickster. He likes to play jokes. He likes to play with you. And she said he told her that this thing liked me. And it wasn't there to scare me. It was just playing. He wanted me to come and play with it. For some reason, it liked me. And it wanted to joke around with me. And I told her, I said, I don't play like that. So. Anyway, she said, well, those tribes up there, they use corn, different corns to doctor. So this old man, he grounded up this corn. He made it into powder. And he sung a song on it. Y'all want to hear it? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, and he gave that to me. He said, you sprinkle that around the place that you're staying, and it'll stay away. And anyway, he gave me some other stuff, and I took care of that. And I was never bothered again. But sometimes I think about that. So that was my story for tonight. At this time, I'm getting ready to call another elder from the Osage Nation. He's a well-respected, sharp-looking young man, they say. And a lot of you might know him. A lot of y'all might not want to know him. But his name is Mr. Marvin Stepson. Let's give him a round of applause. Put you in the hot seat. All right.
I can't top that kind of story, and I just can't do it. I don't know anything like that. But when I was a little kid, my mom's older sisters, they were quite a bit older than her. They were all born, they would all be way over 100 now if they were still alive. They were born in the early 1900s. They were all full-bloods. And they used to talk about things. And when I'm talking to non-Osages, I talk about the hairy man or Bigfoot. When I'm talking to Osages, I talk about the hairy man. And that's what I'm going to use today. And they talk about the little people and things like that. I've never seen any little people. I've heard about them. I've heard of people who non-Indians have seen them or heard them. Never seen it. I've been where they're supposed to have been, but don't know anything about that sort of thing. Wasn't really too concerned about it My mom used to say that when she was a little girl, they lived out west of Great Horse up on top of the hill. And said when the sun went down, they must not have had any yard lights back in those days, because they say that they would tell them to come inside so the hairy man would get them. Mom said, there is no such thing. They just told us that to scare us before we would come inside, and it must have worked when they came inside. And I've heard all those kind of stories most of my life. But it never really bothered me too much. But I have a vivid imagination. I like to see things, but I knew that's what it was with my imagination. And then I was more afraid of the ghosts in those forests of Germany than I was things here. People died in those forests just 25 years before I was there. And we were just a little few miles from the Czechoslovakian border. And we used to see the trash left over from underneath the surface of the earth. The trash left over from the spent cartridges, twisted metal that's come from high heat and high pressure explosions, things like that. And I thought, what if those dead Germans are still in the ground? What if they're still there? What if they come out to get me? And I was on guard. I had a machine gun in front of me and no bullets, of course. And I thought, well, if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. They didn't. I watched the sun come up. But that concerned me more than anything else. But those things I think about those things every once in a while. And back in the 90s, we used to go deer hunting quite a bit. Out west of Fairfax, I don't know what's called the second farm, and 2 or 3 or 4 of us would go out there. And we'd get out there and we'd all take different vehicles and stuff and say, well, where are you going to go? I said, well, I think I'll go up there with big rocks. Where are you guys going to go? So we're going to go up there, and Ray split up, and even Isaiah, he split up. He'd go out there and go to sleep, I think. And I would too. I'd go to big rocks, take a nap, wake up, look around, and go exploring. And I'll come across, and I don't know, the road turns, I don't know whether it's north, south, east, or west, but there's a very deep ravine with very steep sides. I went up to it, and I said, I'd like to go down there and look around, but I might not be able to get out. So I'm not going to go down there. So I went back to the big rocks, and took another nap, and waited for something to come by. And nothing ever did. So good time to about lunchtime, and we'd go back into Jumps Roller Inn Cafe and eat lunch and go back out. And so one of my companions, we're leaning over the bed and picked up. We hear very loud roar. It's scary. It's like that kind of roar you hear in Jurassic Park or the son of Jurassic Park, or all those films. Very loud. And we looked at each other. What was that? I don't know. What do you think it was? I don't know. You gonna go see? No. Do you? No. So the other companion comes out. Did you hear that? He didn't hear anything. So we told him all about it. Why don't you go look? No. My goodness, we got guns. It might not be enough. So we left it alone. I don't know what it was. We never did go look. We ain't been out there since for a lot of different reasons. So we just kind of let that go. I said, to me, it sounded like people who hunt predators, they have call, rabbit call, and things like this. And make squealing noises, things like this, and the coyotes come to investigate, and they shoot the coyotes. I said, sound like one of those. Maybe it was a call to get something to come to investigate, and then they grab it and eat it. So let's not go out there. Or it could have been something fell off that deep ravine and broke a leg, and it's in pain. Agonizing pain. Let's go see. No, let's not go see. We're not going to do that. Okay, so we didn't. So, but we haven't been out there since. But we used to go to different places real early in the morning. The sun come up, there'd be fog coming up off the dew, coming off that. This would be a good place for the little people to come out. And I'd get down on my hands and knees and look around and see if there's anybody else walking around out there. Nothing. So I'd go find my place to go sit. But never did see anything. So years later, I'm coming over a Hominy for some reason or another, and it must have been, I don't remember how long ago it was, if I can remember what car. What kind of car we're driving, I can tell you because I've driven the same kind of car for the last 22 years. So, probably about 2014, 13, 14, 15. I'm driving east on Highway 20, and you come to a place where it kind of veers off to the southeast, go down there to Sycamore Creek. And there's a fence line that goes straight east. Keep on going straight east. There's some trees down there, some bushes. And I'm minding my own business. I ain't thinking about nothing. I'm listening to the radio. I don't know what. I ain't thinking about it. I don't even know what I'm coming over here for. Maybe it's dancing. I don't remember. But anyway, I looked under those trees, and there he was, a big man, a huge man. And I looked, and by that time, when you're doing 65, 70 miles an hour, things go by real fast. I looked at my rear view mirror to check again. By that time, it's out of my vision. And I didn't turn around going back. I'm on a mission. And so what did it look like? Well, it looked like it was about 7.5, 8 feet tall, very broad, very big shoulders, one head and neck all covered in reddish brown fur from head to toe. Couldn't see each other, but that's how it covered. So that's my experience with the hairiness. If there is such a thing, and I think there must be, because we have heard about these things. People have written about these things for hundreds of years, for as long as they've been in the North American continent. I've heard about hunters being trapped in cabins. They're found on their doors, things like this. And if you're out there out there about Arkansas River, and you hear things that are speaking on the trees, that's to them. If they throw things, that's to them, because that's been their MO. They want you to leave, so maybe you ought to leave. I don't know. And I got to thinking, what if I was to see something? What if it was a threat to me? Would I shoot it? No, I don't think I would shoot it. But what if we did a sample of its hair or its flesh? It was a hominy, a man-like creature. How would I feel about that? Well, we don't know because we've never got anything like that. But there are some creatures in every continent but one, that's Antarctica. That people talk about these things. So maybe they are and maybe they aren't. And people say, no, there is no such thing. And where is the evidence? Well, we know that there's deer out there, but we find very little evidence of the deer. Footprints once in a while, bones once in a while, but not very often. So, but that's my experience with that. So, and I haven't seen one since. And that's just fine with me. I hear coyotes every once in a while. I'm fishing to hear coyotes. Don't see them very often either. See them along the highway. But and if you don't believe my friend, talking to a guy about over there, because he was over there with me, and we decided we weren't going to go look at it. We'll go find out what it was that was making that big noise. But it was kind of interesting. Not scary, but threatening. Could have been, but we didn't want to go look. We weren't well suited for that sort of thing. We were deer hunting. We're not looking for a hairy man. We're crying out loud. So anyway, that is about it for that thing. I've never seen these little people, and there are people around who ask about that, and I don't talk to them about it. It's not their business, not their concern. I've never had any experience with it, but other people are supposed to have. So there you go. Any questions? I don't have any answers, but if you got questions, I'll be open for discussion.
Let's give him a round of applause.
Well, I will say one thing. When I go out into the woods by myself, I take a firearm with me, because there are a lot of animals out there that have big tusks, and they're furry and everything, and they will kill you and they will eat you, and you will disappear off the face of the earth.
Let's give them another round of applause. You know, these elders, they're superstars. You know, now I'm getting ready to call an Oto, Missouri Pawnee elder. She resides around the Red Rock area under a bridge. But anyway, now she's well respected there in Oto, Missouri country. You know, she's always giving. She's a very kind-hearted woman that does a lot of things for Indian folks. You know, she's one of that'll give you everything she's got. That's how kind she is. So tonight, you know, let's give her a round of applause. I'm going to turn the time over to Malia Hoffman. Georgia Hoffman, I'm sorry. This heat's getting to me.
Hello. I was just going to tell you the scariest thing that ever happened to me is right here behind me. Okay. I live out in the country in Red Rock, and there's a place down there that everyone's scared of. I don't know why, but they call it either Haunted Hollow or Spooky Hollow. But it's a road it's about a mile long, and there's, oh God. Eliminate that. And, huh? Where am I talking into? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I can't hear myself. Okay, and there's a bridge on the south side, and about halfway through, there's another bridge, and then a big bridge. There's a flat bridge down there, and it's just nothing but trees all the way down to the corner. So one evening about sunset, I had gone over to OG&E, where they're building the OG&E plant. And my sister-in-law and I were coming through that bottom. And for some reason, I don't know, we looked over at the flat bridge, and there was something there on the flat bridge was big enough to stand on the bottom of the creek and hold itself over the bridge, or either it was strong enough to just hang on the bridge and look over at us. And the first thing that came to my mind, I thought, that looks like an orangutan. But I don't know why, because it was hairy from the top of its head all the way down to where we could see. And it looked like, to me it looked like it had been wet and rode in dry leaves. I don't know what it was, I can't say what it was, but it scared the heck out of me. Anyway, we took off, and I never have seen it again, but about 3 weeks or maybe a month, I would not go back through that creek. But from then on, I have never seen another one. But I don't know what it was. Like I said, to me it looked like a great big monkey, a big monkey that had to be tall enough to stand on the bottom of the little creek and look over, or strong enough to hang on to the bridge and look over. But now I know, I think it was a Bigfoot. But at that time, I didn't know what it was. So that's my story about the Bigfoot. But I got another one. And it was really late one night, real late. And there's a little town about 6 miles from Red Rock called Marlin. And one of my friends was up there, so I decided, well, I'm going to go up and visit tonight. But it was about 9 o'clock, I guess. There was no moon, and it was really dark. And I was driving up the road, and then I turned left to a gravel road. And the gravel was real loose on that road, and I was just kind of cruising along. And all at once, something came beside me in my car and walked right beside my car. Stayed right up with my car, and it was real big. It was so big, and I was scared to death to look at it, because I knew that if I looked, I would get scared, and then if I drove fast, I would slide in that gravel because it was so bad. And so I was really scared. I didn't know what to do. So I just kept on driving. And finally, I got enough nerve to look. And it was a darn great big old black horse falling beside my car. And that's all it was. I thought it was a Bigfoot, but it was somebody's horse that had been traveling right beside me in my car. So that's it. They're all
All right, are you guys having a good time? All right. I sure appreciate these elders, coming out. I know today it's super hot in here, and I'm hoping they get this AC fixed. So, again, you guys got that phone number, somebody call. Help! But anyway, now at this time, we want to hear your stories. So if anybody's willing to volunteer to come up, tell their stories, the floor is open. Anybody? All right, we got this one, this young lady over here.
All right, I'm Alice Carroll from Pawnee. I'm Pawnee Navajo, and grew up in Pawnee. My sister over there, Angie Echohawk, we're first cousins, but native way we're sisters. And our boys grew up together. Russell here was same age as my oldest boy, and my boys were always wanting to have get-togethers with all their friends. And it wasn't just one or two, it was 20 or 30. So there's in Pawnee, there's on our tribal grounds, there's the community house. It's a real old building. Gosh, been a lot of doings there, a lot of hand games, a lot of different ceremony things. Well, we knew that it was scary and people said they'd see things and stuff like that, but my boys wanted to have a party, my middle son, Scott. And so, like I said, there was probably about 20 kids there, 30. And her sons and my sons, we both had 3 sons, they were all the same age. Anyway, there was a lot of non-native boys there. Well, our little native boys, they knew of some of the stories and some of the things that elders or something might have said or heard from their grandparents. And we all had them bring bedding and they played. And when you walk in, there's a kitchen, and you go to the right, and there's one main room where people meet. But in the kitchen, there used to be, they've closed it in now, but there used to be a door, and you would go downstairs, and it was all a basement underneath that community building, an open basement. Of course, nobody ever used it or went down there. But the boys were saying, and now if it gets dark, we all got to stay in, we're going to go in, and that's what they did. Well, those little non-native boys started saying, let's just go find some spirits, let's just go find some spirits. Well, of course, our boys were like, are you crazy? No, we're not going to do that. Well, Angie and I, we were in that main room, whatever. I don't think we had cell phones then, hey, but we were doing something. Anyway, so they were in that kitchen, and they were by that door. There's wooden stairs that went down there, and they started taking little pieces of wood and throwing them down those stairs. They were throwing, and our boys were like, you need to quit it. You guys need to stop doing that. And they were like, oh, it's no big deal. They did that about 3 or 4 times, and a piece of wood came flying back up out of those stairs. They all freaked out. At that point, the non-native boys were like, okay, so we hear you. Well, by this time, it's what, 2 in the morning, something like that? They had done called up whatever, because Angie and I were scared to death. And you know, it's that kind of fear where you're just frozen. We were just laying there waiting for sunlight. We didn't have a car. Everybody dropped us off with all those kids. And it was just the scariest 2 hours of our lives, because we could still kind of hear stuff going on down there. And needless to say, we never rented that building again, as far as to spend the night. We do doings there in the daytime, but no, it was quite scary, and a lot of our little Pawnee boys probably, I'm sure, still remember that, because it really burned in their brains. So anyway, that was my scary story.
Oh, appreciate it. All right, like I said, the floor is open. Does anybody else have a story? Call it. Anybody? Come on down if you got a story. I'm looking. Anybody have a story? Come on down. You can. Got another elder coming up here.
Well, let me tell you a story about kind of a long time in the making. So, when I was young, my grandmother, her name was Rose Pipestone, and she was always telling me, saying something about, you know, if you do this, something could happen to you. I know a lot of the people have family like that, or elders don't be, making mistakes in our dance. Something might happen to you. And I can remember one time my dad was telling me, and she said something to me about that. She got after me because we were at our dance at Gray Horse, and I said something. Well, I saw them out there. They were there. I was taught she was saying something, and I said, no, I saw them, and she got after me so hard. And she said, do not be looking out there. Do not be looking out there where you're dancing. And, enough to make me really, wondered why she was getting after me so bad. So later, my dad was telling me, he said, just don't do that. You know better than that. I'm just telling you, don't look around out there. You might see something you don't want to see. And so, as I got older, I just knew they said that. Don't look around out there. So it was hard when you're younger, or even an adult, for whatever reason, when you're dancing to try to look around, not want to look around outside of where we dance. And so I remember my dad, I got a little bit older, and I said, remember when you told me not to look around out there? He said, yeah. He said, don't be doing that. And I said, well, tell me about that. Tell me why that is. And he said, well, he said, when our drum keeper at Gray Horse walks to the drum and he hits the drum one time, he said, do you know why they do that? I said, no, it just starts the dance. He said, no, when that happens, spirits gather there. And so that's our time. And so there's a lot of things that you just, when that happened, when that drum keeper hits the drum for the first time, he said, spirits gather there. He said, why do you think it is if somebody drops a top feather or their otter hide? He said, why is it you have to give away so significantly? And I said, well, you told me that, and my grandma used to say this, that if that one of those things falls and hits the ground, it means someone's not being remembered. And he said, you understand that? He was looking at me seriously about it. I said, yeah, I know, I understand that, but I don't know. I'm trying to understand what all that means. He said, well, that's what it means. He said that this is a time when spirits gather. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just that you need to understand that's a part of what's going on here. He said, other people, they got different ways and different beliefs about what's happening here. I'm just telling you what I've been taught by, and trying to tell you why your grandma said that, and why she got so angry at you for looking out there. So I've always thought about that, about kind of the spiritual element of our dance, because that's what my grandma used to say. And it's not just a time of enjoyment and hearing songs, but our drum brings this time. That's what she used to say. And so my dad reinforced that. He had a better understanding of that than I do. And then my dad used to say, my sister can tell you that, the way he taught us was no person should carry their child into the dance. I know Marvin Stepson knows about that. He used to say that because the spirits might think you want to give your child away. So don't carry a child out there. So you won't see our family do that. Not everybody believes that, but you can, at least our Kirk Pipestem family, that somebody gonna get after you if you do that. Don't do that. And so I can tell you one time, but again, they told me don't do that, but don't be scared of it. Don't be worried about that. You don't have to, they're not there to get you, or there's something powerful going on here, and these spirits want to be there, part of that. But sometimes, if you don't want to see that, you need to understand about kind of, no need to engage that, but you don't want to see something you don't want to see. Well, I can remember one time, this was recently, I had to think about this. So I was dancing and I looked out there, and it was for no reason, no good reason. and I saw somebody standing there that I knew that had recently passed on. And when I saw them, I thought, can that be? Is that? No, that's not. And so I thought, I'm going to dance around again and see if that's, it probably just looks like somebody that I know. And I came around again, and they were standing there with a very content look. That's what I remember. And I thought, now can that possibly be? Because I was trying to reconcile with myself that, is that real, or is that me thinking something? Is my grandma in my mind that I'm thinking these lessons about don't be looking out there? And then the next time I came around and they weren't there. And so I knew not to be worried about that. And when I remember the expression on that person's face, who I knew really well, I knew that they were a good family. I knew well enough to know they were a good person, highly thought of person. And but I had to question myself a little bit. Who is there? And so, these things we talk about that are, I can remember my Aunt Virginia Primo, she'd say, do not open those blinds there after a certain time, because that's when little people go by. Now, I can remember thinking that she's just trying to get me to behave a certain way, right? And my grandma said some of these things too. That's why I thought they're just trying to get a child to behave a certain way. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to do that, because I don't know whether I buy that or not. But I know that my grandma, when she got mad at me at that time, she wasn't kidding. This was not about trying to keep me, make me behave or not do something because she didn't want me running outside. But she got upset at me. And then my dad reinforced it, and then I know what I saw. But I also knew that it wasn't scary to me. It didn't scare me. Because I kind of felt like, well, I understand what this is now. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that I've been told of my whole life. And so I kind of feel like since time I was a little boy, that they were preparing me to see that I might see something. I'm not Chris Hill, I'm no elder like Chris Hill. But maybe they were telling me something so I'd know and be ready in case something happened like that. And now, it's not like and I wasn't afraid, so it's not a scary story. It's not scary because I believe what they told me. I believe what they taught us about our dance and our ceremony. And so that's what I experienced. So I don't know, I don't think it wasn't scary to me. It was kind of, I had to think about what was happening. And so now I kind of know what they were saying. It wasn't, they weren't just trying to get me to behave. They were trying to tell me something. So anyway, that's my story.
Boy, I really admire Wilson, for the knowledge that he has, the family that he comes from. They're well respected all through Indian country. So let's give him another round of applause. I know up at Oto, he's known as the man with the best looking hair. Anyway, I want to make a quick announcement again. We got a Taco Indian Champion Cook over here, Mrs. Horse Chief. Wave at the people. And y'all go over there and give her some business. She got all kinds of goodies over there, some desserts. Over here you got Angie Echohawk. Wave at him, Angie. And she's got things over here on sale. Back there you got Jackie Jackson. She's got some neat looking t-shirts back there. You guys help our native vendors out, purchase something. Again, the floor is open. Before I call anybody up here, I'd like to recognize that princess around here. She just saved my life with that plate. So I want to recognize her at this time. You know, she's got good ways. I want her to come up, you know, introduce herself, you know, so everybody knows her name. You know, what family she comes from, because that's good ways. She's taking care of everybody out here. And a lot of times you don't see princesses out there that hold that title that well. So at this time, I want her to just kind of say her introductions. And if she has anything else she'd like to say, I'll give her that time. Let's give her a round of applause.
Hello, my name is Audrey Seno, and I am the JOM princess for Hominy. My mom is helped put this on, and she asked me to help, so.
Sure appreciate it. Oh, everybody give her a round of applause. I know she saved my life tonight, so I'll be saying special prayers for her from now on. Anyway, now the floor is open. Does anybody out here have a story? We all come here to share. You know, this community, you know, these type of events are here to bring everyone together. You know, it's a good night tonight. So if again you got a story, come on down. All right, we got one. She's putting on her jacket. Ready to come up. Hey, she's even taking off her hat. It's gonna be a good one. You guys, get ready. I'm shaking already like that.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Candace Bird, and I was listening to these stories, and I was reminded of some of the stories that I've heard too growing up, and some of the experiences that I've had. And this story is technically about my brother, because he was always getting into things that he ought not to be getting into. I can remember as little kids, we were told to never still be playing outside when it's dark. Well, there's a place called Dwight Mission, and it's down south in Cherokee country, and it's the place of an old boarding school, and there's a cemetery right next to it. Now, we had always grown up hearing that a bunch of kids died in a fire in this boarding school, and, you know, growing up we thought, well, that may or may not be true. Might be true, might not be true. But my brother, he was a little kid, and my dad was at a conference, an overnight conference at this Dwight Mission place. And it was dusk, the sun was going down, and my brother found this tetherball court. And he was the only kid there for some reason. While my dad was attending his meetings, my brother decided to go out and play with this tetherball. And he's just kind of swinging it around, you know, just kind of hitting it lazily. And the sun keeps going down, and it's going down, and it's getting darker. And my brother's just hitting that tetherball. He's not really paying attention. He's just playing with that tetherball, and he's just hitting it, and it's going round and round. And then all of a sudden, he feels it being served back to him. And he's like, oh, Dad's come out to play with me, okay. So he starts hitting that ball back and starts hitting that ball back. Well, that ball keeps getting back and keeps being served right back to him. And my brother's, he's just not paying attention. He's just having a grand old time, just hitting that ball back and hitting it back harder and harder until he hears my dad call him from across the way, and he says, son, what are you doing? What are you doing still playing? It's getting dark out. You need to come back home. You need to come back this way. And my brother stops, and he realizes that he can't see who's playing with him. So he stops, and he runs back to my dad. And my dad, he holds him, and he realizes that his son is scared. And he says, what's the matter, son? What's the matter? And my brother says, Dad, I was out here playing tetherball, and I couldn't see who was playing with me. And my dad says, well, you know what I told you about playing outside when it's dark. So my brother never did that again. Now, that was my brother's experience. I never had an experience like that until I started working at the Cherokee Heritage Center as a tour guide. I used to play the flute for the villagers, or for the tourists that would come through. And I was the only one who played the flute, and it was just something I was happy to do. And we had always been taught too that you're not supposed to talk to the darkness. You're not supposed to talk to something that's not there. And there used to be this little changing area. We would dress out in our 17th century, 1710 clothes. And then after the day was over, we would come back and we would put on our normal street clothes. And I was waiting to change, and I remember I was knocking on the door and in the changing room, and I remember I asked, "Is anybody in there?" And I heard a voice that said, "Yeah, someone's in here." And I thought, "Oh, that sounds like my coworker. That sounds like Steve or Danny." And so I just sat down and I just waited, and I waited and I waited a little bit more, and it usually didn't take the guys very long to change. But I kept waiting, and then I saw Danny come back into this room, this waiting room area, and he wasn't in the changing room, and he says, "Candace, what are you waiting for?" And I said, "You?" And he says, "Candace, there's no one in that changing room." And so I thought, well, okay, that's weird. That's odd. Maybe I didn't really hear anything. Maybe I didn't hear anything that day. But then I saw another coworker. Her name was Morgan. After I got through changing, I came outside, and it had been at least about an hour before closing, and nobody been in the village for at least 30 minutes, because everybody had changed back into their street clothes. And I go outside and I see my coworker, Morgan, and she looks at me and she just stares at me, and I can tell that something's wrong. And I said, "Morgan, what's up?" And she just says, "Nothing." And she turns and she walks away, and I thought, something's really up with Morgan. And she wouldn't tell me what was wrong until the next day. And I said, "Morgan, what was wrong? Why did you give me this scared look?" And she said, "I heard the flute being played in the village, and you weren't in the village. And it sounded just like your flute. I have a cedar flute. It has a very distinct sound. I play similar melodies." And she said it sounded like your flute. It sounded like you were playing. And we have been told about things like this, and I thought to myself, something is playing with me out here. But oddly enough, I didn't get scared. I got kind of annoyed. I thought, somebody's trying to pretend to be me playing my flute. And so I just stopped and I prayed about it, and I asked them to stop. And then I never heard about flute noises or anything talking back to me again. So those are my experiences that I have had and that my brothers had. And I'd like to share one more story with you. It's an older story that my grandma used to tell. And it's an old Quapaw story. She used to call it the teenagers in the pit. And she said that when she was a young girl, her Wetsiko, her grandpa, used to tell her this story. They used to tell the story about how when they used to live in a big village, the kids weren't doing their jobs. The young people, they weren't listening to their elders. They were just running off and playing and dancing and doing whatever. And the elders and the parents and the adult people, they had things to do. There were jobs to be done. There was water to be drawn. There were things to be made. And there was hunting to be done, fishing to be done, nets to be mended. The normal workings of everyday life in a village. And they needed the help of the young people, but the young people would not help. And no matter how much their elders and the adults tried to get them to help, they just didn't want to help. It just blew them off every time. And so the elders thought, well, we need to do something about this. We have to teach them a lesson. So the elders gathered together And they thought to themselves, and they planned amongst themselves, well, what is it that they want? Maybe if we just give them what they want, maybe they'll help us. Maybe. And so they came up with this plan, and they went to their children and the young people, and they told them, when you guys get together and you're dancing around and you're singing and you're not working, you're making way too much noise for us over here, where we're trying to concentrate on what should be done. So what we're going to do is we're going to dig this giant pit for you. We're going to put you in the pit, and we're going to give you anything you want, anything you ask for. Ask for it, and it's yours. And the young people, they got really excited about this, and they started asking for a new drum, a new comb for their hair, new moccasins, things that they could, make songs and dance with and just have a party with, have a good time with. And so the elders and the adults listened, and they put all of those things in this pit. And so the kids, the young people, they climbed down into the pit, and they began to sing and drum, and they dance and they sing all night long. They're just having a great time. And in the middle of the night, their elders and their adults took the village and moved it far away. And they didn't come back. Till years later, they come back to the pit, and there's no one in there. Broken mirrors, torn moccasins, tattered leather. And Witsiko would look at my grandma and say, that's what'll happen to you if you don't behave. Thank you.
All right, that was a good one. I sure appreciate that. Boy, everybody's coming out with some good stories. I just wanted to remind everybody they have a donation, I don't know what you call it, jar over there, it's to help pay for some of the costs for this evening. So if you guys can donate just a little bit, whatever you can, be sure to drop whatever you got in that bowl she's got over there, that jar. It's over there by that princess, so you guys have any loose change or anything, they'll take anything. So anyway, with that to be said, now I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Yehola Tiger. He has a story that he wants to share with the people. But again, if you have a story, I'll be calling you up, so come on up after him.
So this story, it happened to me when I was a senior in high school. I've never told this story in public, so this is the first ever time I'm telling it in public. I just got a brand new car. I'm about to graduate high school. It was one of those Grand Prix, you guys. I thought I was hot stuff to it. I was riding around, zooming in it. But me and my buddy, we went up to Claremore one night. He's a non-Indian, and we're coming back. It's probably 12 in the morning, maybe midnight, 1 o'clock, and we had a car wreck. So we rewind that story. This is kind of like a hindsight. I had been dealing with some things in my house where my parents lived. I am very big on closing my door at night. I've always been that way. My grandpa always used to tell me that. So there'd be mornings I'd wake up and that door would just be cracked, just a little bit. I thought that was weird, so I asked my parents and just said, "Hey, y'all messing with the door? I like to keep my door closed, and I'm 17 years old, and I'd like privacy." And they go, "Well, you didn't touch your door." So fast forward about a week later, I wake up the next morning, or that morning, and the door's about half open. And I go to them again. I said, was y'all messing with my door? My dad's, he's a prankster. He always likes to, prank me and whatnot. But they go, "No, we didn't touch that door." And so one night I'd woken up this is about 2 o'clock in the morning, about a week later. And I look and I see a shadow. The door opens by itself, and a shadow rushes in. And I'm like, what is that? I was like, what is that? You know, you ever heard of sleep paralysis? I think thought that's what it was, you know. I was like, man, what was that? You know, and I kind of stirred and looked. I was like, oh, you know, I'll go back to sleep. So then about another week later, like I said, this is happening, recurring. That door opens all the way up, and there's a shadow with a man with a hat. He just looms in the room, and he goes and stands in the furthest corner of the room. Bear in mind, I had these shade protectors where it blocks out the out light, one of those curtains, those sunblocker curtains. And he was darker than the room. Had a big old hat on, and he was about 8 foot tall. And I'm sitting there like, oh man, I don't know if that, you know, what is that, you know? You know, just kind of, I guess I'll go back to sleep. This happened again the next night. So I told you guys that I got in a car accident. About a week before I was supposed to graduate, we went to Claremore. We were driving through Inola, and it was almost as if I kind of blacked out, like I just went to sleep. And I woke up right before we were about to hit the embankment, to where a tree and a light pole were kind of parallel to each other, and I hit my buddy. I pulled him back, and I knocked his leg out. He ended up tearing his ACL because his leg was through the windshield. And, you know, I ended up waking up and the sun's coming up. And I'm hitting on him on his chest, like, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. He finally ends up waking up. We call 911, and, you know, emergency services comes, and they go, you were about half an inch from hitting that light pole and dying. And so I had to internalize that, you know, and just kind of think back and just, you know, you start looking back at your behavior and how you do things in life. And so so there had been some other recurring things happening at the house, and I'll go and see I wouldn't say she's a medicine woman, but she's a Cherokee, she's a seer. She can see auras and things of that nature. And she goes, I'm looking at you, and your light is real bright. She said, but there's a tinge of black around the border of your aura. And I asked her, I said, well, what could that be? She said, there's something trying to get to you, but it can't quite get close to you. And she goes, did something bad happen to you here recently? And I told her, I said, yeah, I got in a real bad car accident, totaled my car. And she goes, do you remember seeing anything, you know, around you when you woke up? And I said, I thought I saw something standing on the edge of the headlights, because the headlights are still on. And I thought I thought I saw something at the edge of the headlights. And she goes, you were probably supposed to die that day, but something saved you. And I carry that with me, you know. That's kind of the reason why I collect stories, and I'm a storyteller, and I tell these stories and share information. Because, you know, our elders are, you know, with COVID and everything of that nature, we're losing a lot of our stories, you know. And being a storyteller and a story collector is important. So if any young ones out here got a story, you heard something from your grandparents, you know, they say, hey, don't whistle at night, or hey, don't answer the door if you hear some knocks. You know, there's things out here that your elders, they tell you this for a reason. I didn't listen. Guess what? I paid the consequences of those actions. So with that being said, does anyone in here have a story? Anybody got a story? Come on up. And thank you.
Y'all doing all right out there? Hey, I got relatives out here. I can see them here and there. And like that. I'm Kevin Cunningham. I'm from the Gray Horse District. A lot of you know my mom, Sue Cunningham, and I got a couple of stories, and one is of her and Dad's experience, and a couple of them are from my own that I didn't used to believe, and I wouldn't have. But this was probably about maybe 7, 8 years back. This was out at when Gray Horse was going on. It was Saturday morning, and I passed by Mom and Dad, and they said, well, when you get through helping them haul them benches down to the arena, we got something we want to tell you here. And okay, you know, and I had to help carry a couple of benches and put them in the arena and in the spots they're supposed to be. One of them was one of my sister's benches, and another one was another relative that was up there at Archie's camp, Archie Mason. And well, we got through with that, and Mom and Dad both said, "Did you hear Caesar this morning?" Talking about Caesar Williams, him, and of course his wife Janice Edmiston. And I said, "No, I didn't hear anything. I was asleep in my tent." And wake up usually around 6:30. Go in the showers right next to Archie's summer house that he has, and well. He always has a big breakfast every morning, and everybody gathers around, or they come in from town, wake up at camp or come in from town, and then you have breakfast, and everybody prays and all this. Well, Caesar and Janice show up. They drove up, and I said, "What was you going to tell? What was you all going to tell me?" And they were busy walking up. They said, "We'll tell you as soon as Caesar gets here." And I said, "What was that? What you asked me?" And they said, "Yeah. Wait." And so Caesar and Janice come and sit down, and Mom and Dad said, "We heard you this morning," and because he's the camp crier, and. Caesar said, "What?" And he said, "I wasn't here." And they said, "That wasn't you that we heard. We heard you really pretty loud this morning." And him and Jenna said, "We wasn't here. We were in town. We were at the Black Gold. Black Gold is a little motel that you stay there in Pawhuska. It's being renovated right now, I think. But, well, he said, no, we wasn't here." They said, "We heard you loud and clear." "Yes, you were." And him and Jenna shook their head. "No, we wasn't here." And so everybody kind of looked at each other, and they was all kind of, and they pretty much figured that was the former camp crier who had been passed for several years, and y'all remember Uncle Isaac. And but they both, their eyes were about this big, and they swore to God they heard it loud and clear, and they told me that. I didn't hear anything. I was busy getting around doing the regular Kevin-O thing that I always do in the morning, and but. They swore that they heard this, and that's what came from them. So good. That's what I have on that one. And this other story that I've got, this didn't have anything to do with anybody, my family, nothing. This was me back in Broken Arrow. I used to live in a loft apartment. It was in a converted barn that the owner had made some upstairs apartments out of. And then in the middle was still a barn section. And it was a nice loft apartment. I had French doors on it, my own dishwasher. I had my own laundry room in it. A really nice apartment. And I enjoyed that. And this was just like maybe a year previous to me getting into pipeline. And back then I was working for the Hard Rock Casino. And that's the Cherokee guys out there at Catoosa. And that's where I was employed at that time. And I came home one afternoon like that, and my landlord met me at my stairs. You had to go upstairs to get to my loft apartment that I had. It always looked like it was in the trees because there was these trees that surrounded my French doors, and it was really beautiful. It was nice. And he said, you need to turn your stereo off whenever you leave and go to work. And I said, it's never on. And he said, that thing was blasting loud. And I thought, what? You know, I never leave anything on whenever I go to work. Look, everything's always shut off. I have a tenant system, and you turn it on either by remote control or manually. And so I thought, you know, I didn't think anything of it. You know, I thought, maybe, you know, maybe there's a short or something, and I didn't think anything past that. I just apologized to AJ. That was Arjo Jackson's land that I was on, off of 91st, Lynn Lane area, if you all know that area. It's an older farm. It'd been there since the 1930s. And, I used to like to, every Saturday night, I'd open up my French doors, and I had my grill up there. And I loved to grill out. And I always turned on my radio station. I used to listen to big band jazz Saturday night. And I'd always turn it on to 92.9. This is Big Band Jazz Saturday Night. And I'd always light up these candles all through my loft apartment. And I'd do that and listen to my jazz, and I'd put on steaks and potatoes, and I loved doing that. And but what started happening is when I'd start to close up of an evening, these candles started looking like they'd been blown. And these were nights when there was no wind or breeze or anything. But it looked like somebody had come up there with big breath and really blew those candles out. You know how wax looks when it's been blown. And it's got that blown look, and then it dries like that. And all the candles around my whole place. And this was inside the place, not outside where the wind could get to it. And everything started looking blown and splattered all behind it. And I didn't think anything would do anything like that, but they all started happening like this Saturday after Saturday. And I was wondering, what is doing that? Am I shaking something? Am I bumping into something? You know, I thought, surely I can't be doing that. And that started popping up. And then there was a particular Wednesday afternoon, I came home. My neighbor on the other side of the barn, he said, Kevin, he says, why do you leave your stereo on whenever you go to work? And I said, my stereo is not on. I said, I never leave that thing on. He says, that thing was blasting through my walls. And I said, well, AJ told me this, like about a good month and a half ago. And I got to looking at everything, and I thought, well, this is the second person that's told me this. You know, why are they telling me that the stereo's blasting? And I didn't have any idea from Adam. And but I looked at my remote control. This time, on my coffee table, in the TV, by the TV, my remote control was turned upside down. I never turned that thing upside down. I never, ever, ever. It's got its spot, and it's always over on the shelf right by the TV, where I always set that thing every night. It's never on that table. And it was on the table this time, turned upside down. And I thought, Reed, have you been in my place? And he goes, I wouldn't know how to get in your place if somebody showed me how. And I thought, you know, then why are you and AJ telling me that my stereo's blasted whenever I'm gone to work and I don't even know anything about it? And well, you left it on. No, I didn't leave it on. And I got to wondering about this. I thought, Well, I went to bed after Reed had told me, and I saw this little light flicker come out of my closet like that, and I thought, I'll just change out the light bulb. You know, maybe it's probably a weak light bulb, but I didn't think anything of anything, because back at that time, let's see, I was only 50 then, and I had never known anything out in the spiritual realm or anything. I wouldn't have known it if it hit me upside the head. I've always pretty much gone with a practical sense and approach to everything. Oh, well, this is because of this is because of that. Well, I changed out the bulb that was coming in my closet. It was one of those long fluorescent bulbs that you change out in the light fixture. So I changed it out. Well, a couple of nights went by, and I saw this little shadowy figure kind of go along my ceiling like that, and I thought I fixed that light, and this started going on. And then the morning after that, I heard this loud knock on my floor, and my wall to the east, and then my ceiling, and then the wall to the west, and then it went boom, 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 boom. These loud knocks like that, and I rose up out of bed, and I thought, how can something knock on my floor, this wall, the ceiling, and that wall really fast in succession? Boom, 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 boom. I thought, what is going on here? I went down and looked in the barn section, and I was looking at those walls that, the outer walls that would have been to my loft apartment, and there wasn't anything around there, anything like that at all. And then a little bit later on, there's this little movement that was in my apartment late one night. I kept hearing something moving around, kind of ticking around. I got up, there wasn't anything. I was looking around. I thought, maybe the wind or something, because sometimes you can hear the wind come up and around there and flicker in the branches around the front part of my apartment. I thought, well, maybe it's that, and then I went to bed, and then something turned on my faucet in my kitchen, and I got up, my faucet in my sink was turned on, and I thought, whoa, that one got me. That one made all the goosebumps come out off the back of my head and off my arms, and I thought, ooh, something's going on here. And I went and I told my mom and my dad. They lived further into Wagner County, and my mom came with me the next day, and she was starting up the steps. She got about halfway up them steps, and she stopped right there, and she goes, whoa, and she grabbed me, and she goes, wait, right here. She goes, you have something here, Kevin. She goes, there's something. You've got something. I said, something? What are you talking about? She goes, I'm not talking about any people. She goes, you have an entity here. Something is here. But Mom wouldn't come any further than halfway up those stairs. She stopped right there and she looked scared and she goes, you come home with us. And we're Catholics, and she made me go buy me one of those 10-day prayer candles like that, and she said, Mom always had this way of feeling things out. She has this way about her. She tends to know things, and way more than me. And but she says, there are these people that's here. And I said, people. I said, what people? What are you talking about? She goes, there are these little people that are here. And she says, you've got about 3 or 4 of them around you. And she says, they're here. And I got those prayer candles, and her and Dad talked me into moving out of there. It followed me back to their place. It was in my bedroom where I was staying with them after I'd moved out. And they had the house smoked off. And this was when they lived on off of 101st Street. It was past the newer NSU campus out in Wagner County. And they lived on South 105th East Avenue. And they had the place smoked off, and plus she made me buy another prayer candle. We haven't seen anything since then, but that's pretty much what I got on that story, and that was my experience of that one.
All right. Is anybody else seeing visions in here? Ah, it's hot in here. All right, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. I know a lot of you guys are hanging in here, and I sure appreciate that, sitting in here, and participating. I also wanted to make a quick announcement. I know I mentioned this on Facebook. Is there any of my paranormal hunters out here come to show up tonight? Raise your hands. I have a special treat for you guys for afterwards. So if anybody wants to find out, we're going to go to a place out in town and do an investigation. So we're going to kind of wrap this up here in a little bit. And so if you're interested, you got to be serious on this. If you're serious and you're wanting to come over here to the table and let me know. Again, any of my paranormal investigators that are interested, this is a serious business. So again, if you're interested, come to the table and we'll give you what you need to know before we go out. Now at this time, Russell Sun Eagle wants to challenge Isaiah Lastly to a wrestling match right here, right now. Now, we're going to call Mr. Lastly up here. He's got a story that he wants to tell. So, again, let's give him some attention. Again, if you have a story, let's get ready to come up here, and let's try to wrap this up here shortly. I'll try to turn him over to him.
Shoot, Wink said, don't put dog man 1, 2, 3. I went. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm gonna sit down because this big old thing I'm lugging here. About Thursday, 2013, I was cooking over here at the Grey Horse Camp during the Hominy dances, and I was kind of tired. I set my alarm for like a 20-minute nap, and they had a cot in there in that little. Wait, can't hear me? Can't hear me? All right. Yeah, anyway, wait, I haven't been in this new building yet, so, okay, over there. I was over there in that Grey Horse camp, and I fell asleep on a cot for like, what I thought was 20 minutes. You know, I heard everybody outside laughing and, you know, having a good time and stuff, and I was just kind of, you know, so I can just drive home. And what I thought was 20 minutes, I woke up to a dead phone, but I kept hearing everybody talking outside, and everybody having a good time and everything, and I was just kind of just waking up, and, you know, I heard visiting and laughing and everything, and as soon as I walked out that door, it was dead silent, and there was nobody in this village. And I had a dead phone, so I didn't know what time it was. And I go to my car and turn on the ignition, and the clock comes on, and I guess it was like 3:20 in the morning. And there's something out there that I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a remnants of a good dance or something, but man, there's something out there, and it hangs out, and it's there. So that's my story. Thank you.
I thought he was going to say he woke up married. Wow. Dang. Any other storytellers out here? I'll give you a couple of chances. Come on down. All right, he's walking up quick. All right, he's got a good one. Okay. All right. Hold on.
Y'all hear me? My name's Dolores Daly, and I live out here west of the cemetery. You might know my relation is Big Chief. My mother was Leela Mae Big Chief. She married an Oto boy named Jim Daly from Perry. My grandparents were Rose and Jim Daly, lived in Perry, Oklahoma. Well, most of the time I lived in California because my mother passed away and my dad came and took us to California to live. So I didn't know very much about Indian Way or anything, but when I was quite young, my mother had a home out here east of Cotton Gin Road. Kids would all be out there getting ready to have meetings. And there would be a platform, and there'd be sitting in the ladies, my aunts and her would be getting ready to have meetings and getting it ready for the dinner. So us kids used to play around this kind of dark. said, we're trying to give you a ride. And then she's gonna turn like that. That's funny. It's and he looked down, he was gonna help her. He said, let me kind of help you. So he got close to her to put his hand out. And she didn't put her hand out. But when he looked down, the flashlight shined a flashlight. She had books on her. No together, see about one another, help one another out. Whatever we can do. We can't do anything. You got a prayer. Say a prayer. Mother's Day isn't everything. Love. Love your neighbor. That's what we need to do. And I'm so proud that I'm able to be here and tell the story as it did happen to my sister and her husband. It's a true story. And she got well and her marriage went on. And it tightened up their love, everything was very good, very good. And I'm so thankful that I told this story. I hope everybody don't be frightened. What road that is, I don't know, but it's over at Terry's. If you want to take a dark road, that's all I know.
That's a good thing that she said. One thing that, she said was, that's what it takes through Indian country. Is someone coming and telling these stories, sharing these stories. We don't have grandmas and grandpas like we used to that would give us these stories all the time. So again, I really thankful for those good, kind words that you gave. All the things that you said, that was good. All right, with that being said, do I have another storyteller? Come on down.
Hello, I'm Philip Narkin, Kiowa, Comanche, and Seminole. I'm from Anadarko, Oklahoma. I live in Oklahoma City. Heard about this shindig going on, so I drove out here. Glad I came out. I got a couple of stories here. My mother told me a story about her brother-in-law, my aunt's husband. He's a white guy. They lived in Anadarko, and he drove a taxi, four-door, in town, and they were living with his in-laws, my grandparents at the time. And there's two ways to get to town from Anadarko to Grandpa's house. You take the highway, Highway 9, and there's a back road, and there's this, you go through this back road, there's a bridge, goes over the Washita River. And the name of that bridge is Jeremiah's Bridge. I remember when I was a little guy, we'd go across it. So in them old metal bridges, it's got wood and then the iron and metal, and it would creak and pound when you go over it, you hear the wood and the iron as you cross. Anyhow, the story goes, my uncle was driving home one night. Instead of taking the highway, he went the back way. As he was driving across that bridge, he heard that back door open and shut. As he crossed that river and he got on the other side, he looked in the rearview mirror and he seen an old lady sitting in the back seat. He said, boy, hair went up on the back of my neck. I got chills and goosebumps driving all the way home to the in-laws. He said he got out, got home, parked, jumped out of the car, and he ran to the house. Went in there and told whoever's in the house, he said, there's somebody in the back, my cab. Somebody's sitting back there. And somebody, came out of the house. And they looked out there. And they came back in and said, there's nobody back there. What are you talking about? But yeah, that was pretty creepy. But my dad told me another story about that similar place. His father-in-law, my mother's dad, my great-grandpa, I guess before that bridge was there, he was riding his horse. He was going to go across the Washita River, And he got to the edge of the bank. He seen a old woman sitting over there on the other side of the bank. And he tried to get his horse to go, and it wouldn't go. It kept going back and forth, and he never would cross. So he had to go back home. But that's a story that I got. I got one more here. I borrowed this one. It takes place at out west in New Mexico, Santa Fe area. Back in the 80s, Native girls would go to reform schools. So this is where it takes place, Santa Fe, New Mexico. A few girls wanted to sneak out and go party at a town nearby, but had no way to get there, so they decided to hitchhike. It was getting dark when a nice black sports car pulls up next to them. It's a brand new car. The window rolls down, and this fine-looking native guy is inside. And he asks them if they need a ride. They all say, yeah. The three of them jump in, two in the front, one in the back. They're cruising, laughing, partying. When the girl in the middle starts giggling, she leans over to her friend and says, he keeps tickling me. The girl in the back doesn't know what's going on. As they get into town, the city lights start to light inside the car, and the girl in the back sees why her friend is giggling. There is a tail tickling her friend's side. She then says, we want to get out here. The other girls, confused, they look at the one sitting on the passenger side, and looks over to the one in the middle. She just happens to glance down, and she sees hooves. Then they get out of the car. He lets them out, and then he disappeared into the night.
Anyway, I know we got this young man. He's been dying to get up here. I seen him running 3 or 4 times up here. Get up here, and then he just has to walk back. Dang, so I want to make sure he gets an opportunity. Go ahead and let him know who you are.
Thank you. Leo Little Creek. I'm Stockholm Fox and absentee Shawnee. And anyways, I asked my brother back here to sing a Cool Front song, but he said, dang, I forgot my drum. It's like, God, let all these guys suffer and listen to me. But anyways, all right, I've always had respect for, spirits, the ones that passed on, I got taught, keep my Indian tobacco on me. If you feel afraid or you're scared, and you put some out and pray. So I always believe that. It's always give respect, to the other side, and put food out for the ones that passed on. So when it comes to spirits and things like that, I'm not scared, or I say I'm not scared, but I just have a respect. If they're there, they're there. Dang, grandma's back there making fry bread. But anyways, I'm from around here, and my dad, he was estranged from me. So anyways, he took off out there and snagged up out there in Arizona. Alright, so anyways, his wife is full-blooded Hopi. And I'm going to refer to her as mom. So she'll be my stepmom, but I want to refer to her as mom in the story. So anyways, Dad had just, let's see here. They still live in these old rock homes right now. And way back in the day, about a few 100-year-old homes, the rock homes, and they got their big logs up the top. Boy, that thing, they're big. Still standing to this day. They're older than a few 100 years old, in my opinion. So anyways, I go out there and head up towards Flagstaff, and beautiful country up there. And go more north, right to the left, Cameron, you got the Grand Canyon. keen views up there. So we keep on going over there to Tuba City, and those Hopis call it Tubi, Chief Tubi. So right there on the left, you take a left, that's Navajo res, big reses. If you're familiar with the area, you take a right, it's the Hopi res. And then right there, Moonkopi. It's that first res, they got, or not res, but the village. They got the villages up there. Keep going, you got Shipalabi. Keep going, you got Hope Villa, and then O'Reilly. Well, anyways, I stayed right there with Dad, Mom at the Moonkopi. And they got the upper village. I guess they're living high times. They got electricity, plumbing down, those rock homes, and it's cane ones. But you go down there and you keep going to the older part, they call it the lower village. And they got electricity there, but no running water. You got to fetch your water, you know. For where we stayed, it was just a couple blocks, and just right around the corner. It's pretty keen. So you didn't have to walk real far. And then there's no plumbing, so I had the honey hole right out the back door, so they have to go too far for that either, if y'all know what a honey hole is. So anyways, you know, those Hopi people, they're proud people, they're prayer people, and they're always doing ceremonies, and sometimes they're secret, you know, about what they do, and they don't talk about it, and you don't know what they do in those kivas, and they got a lot of many ways. They pray over a bunch of things that are going on. They got their clans, you know, seasons, buffalo dance. So anyways, they redid this rock home, and they let me stay in there, so I was there by myself. It's like, scary already. So anyways, I started, we'll get to the story here. So here I am out there on the Hopi Res in the lower reservation, or lower village, sorry. And anyways, I'd step outside, and nobody is in and out of that res. You know, I had to get introduced to everybody so they know my face, knew who I was. And my dad's name is Sam. Looked just like my dad, so everybody called me Samson. So everybody knew me. But when you come into, when you take an instant left, when you get into Moonkopi, when you head down to the lower village, there's this natural spring. They got natural springs out there, and that's where they got their fresh water. And then right in front of that spring, there's this big tree. I mean, big. A few hundred-year-old tree. It is big. And right in front of it, they call it a shrine. And then a little bitty thing. It looked like a little pool is what it looked like. So every morning they come up there. Not everybody, but people, the Hopis, pray, whatnot, do their thing, wash up. No, they didn't do that. But we get their water right there, and I'd always wash my face off in the morning with that. You know, said thank you, fresh water, keen waves right there. So, anyways, I asked Mom. I said, how did y'all find that spring right there? Like, how'd y'all tap in? And she said, oh, our water carrier put that there. That's where it needed to be. You know, when you hear Indian people talk and they say, and they tell you stories, you know, you don't question. It's just the way it was. So I didn't question. And me, I like to think logical things. You know, there's a reason, you know, how they find that water. And, you know, there's got to be a reason behind it. And, you know, just me thinking myself. And she said, the old water carrier, she pointed back down there in this little valley where they do their farmland back there in the corner. She said that's where the old water carrier was. And I didn't think much about it. I didn't know at the time. I was like, okay. So anyways, I'd be in that rock home at night. Every once in a while during the day, but it was mainly at night. I'd hear this drum, somebody singing. And I didn't know what it was. Well, anyways, I'd asked Mom about it the next day. She said, oh, probably some kids, you know, singing some songs, trying to learn, you know, bean dances coming up, you know, spring's coming up. I said, all right, just kind of left it at that. And you get to know everybody there, and I knew them little kids that would sing. Like, no, it's not them, you know, it didn't sound like that. You know, they're over there beating on the little plastic little bin, little res kids. Hey. But, so anyways, and I just kept hearing it night after night. And then when moon would come out, you could see long ways where I could. I got pretty good vision, so I could see long ways. So I started venturing around out there, started looking around, and then, you know, sound bounces off them cliffs and whatnot, valleys, so you can come from anywhere. So I was getting curious and just started walking around or doing my jogs. So I didn't run very much, just jogged or shuffled. Hey. But this one place I went, I thought it was kind of over there, and there's these weird rocks, how they were stacked up. I didn't know what they were at the time. So the next day I asked Mom, I said, what is that over there? She was like, oh, that's our cemetery. I was like, ah. So I quit going over there, and there wasn't no drum beating over there. So anyways, when they irrigate their farms, they do it old way. They have this ditch, and then they can call any time of the night, like it's your turn. So you have to go out there at 3 o'clock in the morning and, you know, open up the little waterway and fill up your areas, you know, irrigate that way. And so in the middle of the night, we're sitting there waiting for that water to come, and I asked Dad, and I said, don't you hear that drum? Don't you hear that singing back there? And he goes, no, I don't hear it. I was like, man, I'm gonna go back there and look. He's like, all right. He's like, be careful, you know. So I just kind of ventured back there where I could hear that, drum and that singing. So, anyways, I wasn't scared, or you know, I wasn't really thinking if it was spirits. I mean, it could have been, but I just wanted to know where that sound was coming from, because you know, you hear different sounds here and there, and it was distinctive sound. And like, who's back there singing? Well, anyways. I walked back there, and it was a little bit, probably about a couple 100 yards. You could see where it looked like it ended. So, big tall cliffs, you know, there's nothing else back there, just a dead end. And then there was a couple houses. And I was like, dang, I don't be walking on their property, you know. And so I just turned around, and I could still hear that singing back there. So anyways, I come back next day. Dad takes me back there. We drive back there, and there's a big pickup. And when we went back behind those houses, I seen this old tree. I didn't think much of it at the time, and it was old. It was withered. It was just been there a long time. There's a big rock in front of it. I didn't think much about it at the time. So, anyways, at that time, I had just seen it sitting there. It wasn't no big deal at this time. So, a few nights passed by, and I heard that singing, that drumming. I was like, man, I've been everywhere on this res. I'm gonna go find out where that's at. So that particular night, I headed straight back for there. And then when I went back there, I could only see that tree from a distance when we drove. But I walked up to it, and you could see some carving, see some where they had lit fire, you know, burnings, you know, black and soot up there. And there's this big rock. And man, you could tell there was. They had their old, they have shrines. I think they're called fowls, made out of Hopi cotton. Where they got a couple other items on there. They're not singing stop. And I didn't think much about it. Whatever. So, anyways, the next day I come back and I talked to Mom, and then my dad talked to his best friend, and his best friend would always talk to me in Hopi. And they say if those Hopis talk to you in their language, you listen, and because they don't talk to very many people in their language. So I'd listen. I wouldn't know what they were saying. You know, you go by mannerisms and body language and kind of get the hint of what they were saying. And this guy would always talk to me in Hopi, and my dad noticed, and he was like, man, he don't ever talk to me in Hopi like that. That's my best friend. He said that to him, and then the Hopi guy goes, well, see, he understands. He knows what I'm saying. And I just played along. Yeah. And I did. So anyways, I went and told Mom, and then told my dad's best friend what I had heard and where it was at and stopped when I got there. And then they was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. So anyways, Dad's best friend went and talked to this older Hopi man. God, you can't guess how old he was. He's an old one. And anyways, they went and told him what I had heard. Of course, they're over there talking Hopi. And he looks at me, and he talks a long time. And then after that, I'm like, well, what did he say? He said that, he goes, there'll be a time in your life and you'll know. And, you know, I didn't question it, just said, okay. And just left it at that. So anyways, it didn't, and this was a few years ago that had happened. And I really hadn't thought much about it at all. It was just, you know, I'd heard some old, probably some spirits out there, singing some songs, doing ceremonies, because they're always doing ceremonies out there. And I just left it at that, no big deal in my life. Well, not too long ago, I picked up this Hopi book. I like to read, by the way. I mean, not look at it, but I like to read. So I picked up this book, and then it started telling about all the stories of their creation stories and everything. Pretty interesting book. So anyways, we get to the part where it started talking about the water carrier. I was like, oh, and I was really interested. So I was thinking, so I started reading up on it. And then it said that water carrier, if any time of need or something, some famine, or that's where they're going to settle, whatever the case may be, usually it was just to settle their encampment. So that water carrier had this jar, and then it was full of water from the ocean. See, it didn't say the oceans, but back west, I imagine it's from the ocean. Put two and two together. So you had this jar, and they bury it, and they do their ceremony, and that water carrier had to stay up with it and sing 4 days and 4 nights, and then that water would come up out of the ground or wherever that water carrier had put it. So hence, the logical thinking, a spring. You found a spring. But you think about your ceremony ways or their ceremonial ways. That guy had he had power. He was the water carrier, and it kind of meant a lot to me how it was explained in that book like that. And all the Hopis told me was, yeah, the last water carrier was back there, and then our new water carrier put it up here right above the lower village where you could get your drinking water, all their drinking water. Everybody drank from that, including myself and some Navajos that come over too. But then it really brought me back to that old Hopi man when he told me, there's come a time in your life, you'll know. And man, when I read that book, it was powerful to me. And what I was listening to when I heard what I could hear, Dad couldn't hear it, and then them Hopis knew it. At that time, I was listening to that old water carrier singing those songs. I was like, dang, that's king. Sorry I couldn't scare you, but that's my ghost story for you. A hope.
All right, I know time is running down. Do I have any takers for this after the event? Any takers on this? I had nobody visiting but anyway, letting you know they're closing up over here. They said everything must go $5. So you guys want to get something, come on over, buy them. Over there, they're also having a closeout over there. So last chance. And before everyone goes, again, I appreciate everyone for coming out, and I apologize for the heat tonight. I know it was rough tonight, but I'm going to give Russell just a little bit to tell you about his podcast. Okay. She's got $5, and she's closing it out, so y'all come on over. So I'll let Russell tell a little bit about his podcast, Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation.
Thank you for coming out, everybody. It was fun. I can't wait for the next one. And check out Okie Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Stitcher. I guess I'll say it. Can we go ahead and say it? Look out for Toke Signals. They're right over here. Toke Signals Podcast. We're going to be in Res Dogs. Yeah, so check out, look out for us on that show. I don't know what episode, but be on the lookout for our Okie Podcast, and hopefully we got that premiere next week. Yeah, it better be. But check out Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I release episodes every other week, so next Friday will be our next Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation podcast.
All right, like Indians do, we open up with the prayer. We're going to close with the prayer. Ask the distinguished Pawnee veteran to close us out tonight, Mr. David D. Echohawk. If he could close us out with a good prayer and send everybody home in a safe way.
All right, thank you, Chris. Aho Wakanda, we thank you for this beautiful day here. We ask that you be with us here as we make our way home, and ask that you grant us travel mercies here. Ask that you bless each and every one of us and all the homes that are represented here. Ask that you bless the ones that prepared the food in the hands that prepared the food, and the prayer that was rendered earlier to start this event off here. Ask a special blessing for all the main ones that were involved here and putting this together here. I want to thank the Osage Washaji people for allowing us to come up here and use their facility here, and to be able to gather here and tell these stories and have this fellowship here. So I ask all this in your name, I hope.
All right, I say good night to all. But if you're interested in doing the investigation, y'all come to the table. Aho.